Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of Open Money, where we feature real people talking about their real personal financial journeys. On this episode, we are speaking with Clayton. Clayton is newly retired, but has gone back to work as a consultant and is also navigating the world of RMDs. So let's hear what he has to say.
Good morning. So my name's Clayton. I'm from Tucson, Arizona, and I'm 59 years old.
Well, welcome to the channel. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Do you want to start out with what your numbers look like?
The numbers, that's a big question. Sure. I'm going to cheat over here. So these are a little out of date. I just got my third quarter statements and I haven't updated them since we got back from our trip, but so they'll be a little bit worse than what I'm about to yap about. So on the liquid side, I have about 1.9 million, and that's in a managed account. There's actually five sub accounts underneath that, and we can drill down into those if you'd like. Then we have another 20K that's in a Roth self-directed, kind of like my play sandbox. We have another 30K in 529s. Obviously, that's geared for our grandkids, but again, I just listed it. It is available.
Yeah. We
have another 30K in an HSA. We have 60K in non-traditional. So those, and again, that'll be a fun discussion for folks. That's like whole life annuities,
yeah,
which I know, people frown
that
upon.
is a polarizing subject.
It is.
I've been asked many, many times to make a video on annuity, and I want to, but it's just, you got to approach it right.
Oh, yeah. And the first thing to recognize is the fact that, there's a pecking order of how you invest things, what to go after first. And certainly annuities are way down there, but for certain folks, they really need to think about it because they can be a very logical, good solution. And again, if you want to be, I'd be happy to yap about that.
Yeah.
So those are my non-traditionals. Oh, in cash, we have about 25K in cash right now. Then for the non-liquids, our house right now is valued at 980K. We have additional lot next to us that we went in and purchased. That's a 5-acre lot. That's about 95K. We have a Jaguar that's its book value is about 40K, and I think that's it there. So that's about 3.2 mil is what I'm tracking for total assets.
Perfect.
Now I got to subtract my oh, this is another good discussion, my liabilities.
Yeah.
So we went into retirement holding on to our mortgage.
Okay.
We did that purposely. So we still have, looks like 475K remaining on that. So that brings my net worth down to 2.73 mil.
Okay. It's solid standing. I mean, There are so many that I'm actually really curious about. Just because we did the liabilities, and I know there's one specific viewer, a gentleman named Rob. I know he's going to go into his retirement with a mortgage as well. So if you could speak to why you did that.
Sure. So just a little bit of a backstory. I'm relatively new to the Tucson area. We moved here, I think, 3 years ago. And obviously, I knew I was getting really, really close to retirement. And we were deciding on, we had a big chunk of change from the last house. And it's like, okay, do we pay off the house or not? Well, our mortgage for our house is 2.7%.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So it's like, and again, this is a theme of mine is opportunity cost, right? We sat there and said, gee, we could pay off the house or pay it way down, or leave that money in the market and see, and then that's an easy equation, right? It's just, wow, it's going to leave the money where it is. Yep. But in addition to that, it's the fact that it's a tax credit. The interest that I'm paying helps to bring down my income in the out years. So it was for those two reasons. So it's a very low interest. So from an opportunity cost, it said, hey, keep your money there. And then also the tax benefit. So having said that, there's always the discussion. People always make the argument that, oh, well, peace of mind, blah, 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 that, you want to sleep good at night.
Yeah.
I sleep very good at night.
Yeah.
If anything ever goes really south, there's nothing that prevents me from just reaching into our funds saying, okay, you know what? I do need to pay off the house. So that's the reason, just opportunity cost is the main driver.
That's 100%, something that I agree with.
When we just bought this home last year, and we were either debating pay it off in full or just take a mortgage, and we 100% took a mortgage because I didn't want to take the money out of the market. I think it is better to let it sit there and grow. Our interest rate is 3%, so we did the exact same thing.
Good, yeah. But it's so funny because you hear I've been listening to a lot of YouTubes and whatnot, and people are pretty, 90% of them argue really hard about you need to pay it off. You need to go into retirement debt free. And I guess I would argue that.
Well, I think people do really have a strong opinion, whatever their stance is. But I think what is right for each person is so individual. But then also, like, having the ability to pay it off is very different from someone who doesn't have that cash sitting ready to pay it off.
Yeah, sure.
It's a very different circumstance if someone doesn't have that ability.
Yeah. And I'm okay with, obviously people are passionate and to your point, it's unique about each individual, but what I want is some metrics.
Yep.
Certainly there's an emotional part to an equation, and I'm okay with that. But if someone goes in to make an argument, I want the metrics so I can at least say, okay, from a metric standpoint, I can see where the argument goes and then factor in the equation. And I struggled to get that from a lot of different sources that I was looking at. They would just say, oh, you need to be debt free.
I think most people, when they say you need to be debt free, are speaking from the emotional standpoint.
Yeah.
Because I think mathematically, I think investing it is going to win out. That's my personal feeling. I mean, granted, you never really know what the stock market's going to do, and it certainly didn't win out this year, but long term.
Yeah. So that's a really good, so that's another discussion point, right? This year's a great example of where someone will say, see, you should have pointed it off, you paid it off, your market's going really down. And certainly someone at my age where I'm in retirement, so I don't have that long timeline that's not fair. I want to say I have a long timeline.
Yes.
But that brings the other story of for people that are in retirement, they need to do that whole, you need to make sure you have enough cash in a bucket. I use that, what's called the bucket mentality, that you can sit through a 4-year downturn in the market. And just like a young person, I sit there and say, hey, you know what? It'll be recovered by the time that I need to get to that money that's in the stock bucket. So all good.
Absolutely. Like a fully funded cash bucket makes all the difference because then you can sleep at night. Like you said, the cash is there.
Yep. Yeah. Still frustrating to see it get beat up, but
I see those statements come out and I'm just like, I don't know if I should even look. It's all a part of investing. I just hate when I hear people sell. I'm like, no, it's a part of it. Like these cycles happen. Yeah.
It's funny though, your comment that's why I haven't updated my spreadsheet since I got back. It's like, I really don't want to, but.
Well, I run my numbers, I would say once a month, but I run them with my mom because we kind of like have a little moment about it. She runs hers, I run mine, and we just like chat about it because we both love it. And I was running them last month and she's like, do you really want to run them? I'm like, we got to, it's tradition. They weren't pretty, but that's part of the process.
Exactly.
So what about the annuity? What made you decide to get one?
Yeah. Okay. So it goes to my mortgage broker that we use. I think, and we just switched houses about 3 years. Again, when we came to Tucson, we moved from Maryland. So we had a brokerage house out there. We wanted a local one. So 3 years ago, sat down with our local guys, and I was really beating them up about saying, hey guys, we need to protect my money mainly from a tax standpoint. And the other thing, RMDs. So required minimum distributions, I did not know about until maybe 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was bad on me. Actually, it was bad on my last brokerage also. But anyways.
The professional should have told you.
Yeah. And again, I have so many side paths. I apologize.
Hey, any side paths are welcome because you never know. Maybe that's the little tip that helps.
Yeah, we'll get to annuities, but so our last brokerage house was really good on managing our funds. They did a great job, but they were terrible about the more holistic approach of financial management.
Okay.
So that's kind of why, again, I'm not surprised that they didn't yap to me about RMDs because they were just, hey, Clayton, here's where we want to make sure you maintain your returns. So
Mhm.
anyways, learned about it 4 years ago. So that's also what led to annuities is I started looking at RMDs and saying, oh my gosh, when I get 72, we're pulling out way too much money. I think I'm trying to remember now, between Social Security and my RMDs, we'll be pulling out a little over 200,000 a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just terrible. So where annuities come in is, again, right off the bat, certainly not the best investment vehicle. But when you start running out of investment vehicles, and for the last 10 years or 15 years, I couldn't put into a Roth. We were maxing out our 401ks. So then annuities become a decent, or can be a decent choice.
Yeah.
So they're tax sheltered. And the nice thing, so the advantage of them is the investments are tax sheltered, and it's just like another money market, or not money market, but I can invest in a lot of different vehicles.
They even have index annuities nowadays,
Yes.
which I was super excited to hear about.
Yeah, I do a little bit of index, but I really like the stocks, and we can do that. So that's one advantage is this sheltering, and then the other thing we really liked is, well, first of all, and of course they have no RMDs, which I like that. And then the other item that attracted me was they are a first in, first out.
Yep.
So if I need cash, I can pull out all the premiums that I've put in to date and not have a tax obligation for that. So I really like that. And then it helps us in our out years. And that's a weird thing that I had to get educated on was initially I was just looking for, hey, if we have a lot of income coming in while I'm working, that is a place I can go ahead and dump money. But then my broker or money, whatever he is, he started saying, hey, Clayton, by the way, when you start getting these huge RMDs, if we haven't burned them down enough, by doing backdoor Roths and whatnot, I can go ahead and take the RMDs and then put it into that annuity. And again, it will keep it sheltered.
Yeah.
So that's why we did annuities. We also did and that's also the advantage of variable universal life or whole life policies.
Yeah.
Kind of the same concept. And I'm trying to remember, that was really logical because, the annuities have a pretty high management fees in the first, I want to say 5 years or so.
Yeah.
I may be off on that. So the whole life doesn't have that. So we have the whole life, which we use near term to fund with extra cash. And then we'll start funding that annuity. I think we're like 4 years away from when the fees go down to a more reasonable rate. And I think that rate, I want to say the rate on the annuity is like 1.3% total for the insurance and for the management. And I forget what the whole life, it was along the same line.
Yeah.
So,
well, I like that you have an annuity and a whole life because it kind of brings up an important point. Like, I do see them as viable investment options, but like you said, max out everything you can before you get to them. They are an option, but they should not be first on the list.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And at a certain point, you run out of accounts other than traditional brokerage accounts.
Yep.
So just another way to shelter things. So I love that you actually have experience with both of those because it highlights an important point.
Yep. Yeah. And again, to reiterate your statement, you're spot on that they're not the go-to investment vehicle. They're the vehicle you go to when you've run through those other options and you say, oh, wow, what do I do now?
Yeah. And you also mentioned you had an HSA that had 30,000 in it. So does that mean you invest within your HSA?
Oh, wow. I'd have to check. Yeah, I know on one of them we do because that's done through Fidelity.
Yeah.
And I can go in there and move it into different markets. The other one, I'm not real sure. I know it's invested. I just don't know what it's in it, unfortunately.
Most people don't use that as an investment vehicle as well. And I think that's a missed opportunity, especially for high income earners. And then as you're approaching retirement, you can use those funds. I think it's an incredible vehicle.
Yeah, no, I love HSAs. So I started late on those. So that on me.
Well, I mean, you still have a pretty good cushion in there.
Yeah.
So what kind of income do you have in retirement?
Let's see. My wife has a really small pension that she gets, and I think that's around $400 a month. I just started a consulting company when I retired. So I retired, I don't know if we mentioned this, I retired in March of this year. And then soon after, I think a week after I retired, I went ahead and started a consulting firm. And really did that just because I enjoyed what I used to do from a technical perspective. Got a little tired of the old, working for big companies and all the goofy part of big companies.
Yeah.
So my intent, so because I just started it this year, it's spooling up slowly. I think currently I have like 3 customers. So my income this year from that is going to probably be on the order of $30K. My intent is I don't want to work any more than 500 hours, so about quarter time.
Yeah.
And if I work to that plan, that should be bringing in about 100K gross.
Okay.
Now from that, I'm not sure yet what will actually come in as income. There's obviously all the expenses that I need to get a handle on, and I may opt to go ahead and, instead of taking that as income, go ahead and take that as just fund a self-funded IRA of some sort. But again, I have a meeting later this year. I have a meeting coming up with my CPA. After that, I'll meet with my money people and really kind of firm up the path forward. So with the wife's, again, so wife is about $400 a month for her pension, and then call it so what is that, 4,800 I think for her pension, and then up to 100,000 from the consulting gig if we need it.
And do you draw anything from your investments?
Yes, we do. Yeah, she has to draw her RMDs. Yeah, and I want to say right now that's around. I'm cheating here. I'm looking at. So her RMDs are call it in the neighborhood of 20K a year.
Okay. Does that pay for everything you guys need to live?
No. Yeah, this is going to be the other discouraging thing. So from an expense standpoint, when we started again planning for retirement, we figured we need, I think, before taxes about 100K, call it. Okay. So obviously that's pretty bad. That's pretty hefty. But there's some justification for that. We just want to have fun. That's the justification.
Yeah. I don't think you need justification for that. Your expenses should be whatever they are for the life you want to live.
Yeah. And actually, we're constantly revising it. It's a journey, right? Yeah. You can plan all you want, and we did. I thought we were pretty diligent about it, but we're finding that, hey, you know what? As we get more comfortable with where we're sitting, we're gonna readjust how much we're gonna pull, what quality of life we want. Yeah. But anyways, this 100K has a lot of pad. I think I'm looking over to the left here where my notes are. I think I have like 30K is a house, of course. But for example, I think I have 10K a month for dining.
A month?
Yeah. It's just under 10K. So there's a lot of pad in there. One thing that's
going to be for the year. 10K?
Yeah. No, that's oh, you know what? Let me go look. Blah, 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 blah. That is, I apologize.
That's still hefty. I was like, that can't be per month. That won't add up to 100. Yeah. That'd be 120 just.
That's right. It's so that's 800 a month. I was looking at the wrong column. And the other thing that we might be under, though, is I think I put 20K a year in there for travel. Yeah. And that the first couple of years, maybe we may be underestimating that. So we've done 2 trips this year, and I think I'm already pushing. I might be pushing that already.
Yeah. You got other trips planned?
Not yet. Again, that's another thing that twisted is. Initially we were going to do a lot of international traveling, and we still plan to do that. But I think for the next year, we'll just be doing camping through some of the national parks.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I have one to recommend for you. It's my favorite one.
Okay.
Crater Lake.
Crater
Lake in Oregon. I highly, it's the most beautiful place on this planet. I swear. Wow. You have to go. They have camping. They have bears, so prepare for that. But it's the prettiest thing ever.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we'll add that to the list.
And go. It's probably closed in the winter. It's the top of a volcano, but like spring through fall, you can go.
Okay, so but it's not, I assume it's a dormant, right?
It's dormant. It's actually the deepest lake, I believe, the deepest lake in the US, but a volcano blew its top off and the lake is all funded from like snow and precipitation.
Ooh.
And it's the deepest blue against these evergreens and then snow caps. And it's breathtaking.
Yeah, that would, yeah, so certainly, yeah, we'll enjoy that.
Yeah, so highly recommend there.
Well, again, that would be one of the twists that we had, and I have sunlight blocking me. So, again, we were going to do all this international traveling, and then I forgot about the dog.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a 20-year-old dog, or excuse me, a 12-year-old.
12-year-old.
And, it's costing us like $40 or $50 a night to board him when we go on these trips. So again, the first couple of years, our intent is to just bring him along, and we'll do a bunch of camping with him.
Yeah, he'll love it. It's great
Yeah,
life for a dog.
Yep.
So now, what did you do during your working years before you retired?
Yeah, so I'm an electrical engineer.
Okay.
And I was in the area of radar cross-section, or just making things have a very low signature relative to a radar.
Okay.
And
I'm going to admit that's over my head.
well, and again, another funny story, something that I totally fell into when I was, so my path was, got out of high school, didn't know what I wanted to do, goofed off for a year, and then knew I wanted to go to college, couldn't afford it. Joined the military, spent 4 years there to build up some money. I got married, I think my last year while I was in the service, had our first child in our first year. So got out of the military, went to college, and those were really tough years for us. Kudos to my wife. She did. It was just a really tough time. So I remember I was co-oping with McDonnell Douglas at the time. So I'd go to college for a semester, take a semester off, work for the company. And that worked out really well because even before I graduated, I think it was the semester before I graduated, they extended a job offer to me.
Oh, awesome.
So times were really tough. The economy was, this was probably the late 80s, early 90s. So I just grabbed it.
Yeah.
And it was for their antenna group. And I'm thinking, the last thing I wanted to do was work antennas.
Yeah.
I wanted to do robotics. So it worked out really well because I went to work for McDonnell Douglas. And at the time, that was just their caveat they were using for the F-18EF program. That would, and it had they were doing low observable work on it. So it worked out excellent. I walked in there, I didn't even know what RCS was. I'm thinking, huh? Yeah. And have absolutely loved it. It is just, it's a lot of math, a lot of theory, which I enjoy that junk.
Yeah.
So it's something I just fell into. I would never have planned for it, and I've loved it for the last 30 something years that I've been doing it.
That's incredible. I think it's so important to love your job. It makes it more enjoyable, makes life more enjoyable.
Yes. Yep.
Now, were you able to help? How many kids do you have? I guess I should say.
We have 2.
Were you able to help your kids with college?
Yeah. See, there we go. So our philosophy, and it was funny, one of my coworkers, he and I were 180 degrees out of phase with each other. So our philosophy was we paid their way totally through college. And because my philosophy, we really wanted them to be able to focus on school. And it worked out well. So I can't remember if that's when Cheryl went back to work, I think, right around when the kids started. No, she was at work earlier. But in essence, we just took her salary and we said, hey, this is going to fund the kids' college. And it did.
And you said now you've got the 529s for your grandkids too.
Well, yeah.
Generational.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because both our kids are doing well. They both ended up becoming mechanical engineers.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So they're and they certainly have learned well the lessons of finances. I mean, we kind of beat it into them pretty early that, hey, certainly you got to live for today. Don't give up enjoying life. Yeah. But you need to put on your 30-year, 40-year goggles and look down the road, and they've done extremely well. So that gets back to the 529s. Is we're originally thinking, hey, we want to fund that probably 10 or 20K a year, just to make sure that the kids are all set. But we're kind of thinking they really don't need us. My daughter, and she's the one with she has 2 kids, or 2 grandkids, is doing a really good job of setting up their 529s and making sure that the 2 kids are set.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So I like that you passed on the financial knowledge to the kids. I think that's the most important.
Yep. And that's what parents should do, right? I mean, it's our job to help guide our kids. And there's a lot of things I messed up as I was going through my journey. It's like, no need for them to mess up.
So when did you get started investing?
Yeah. So very much off and on. I think the first time I bought stock, I was like 17.
Okay.
And I think I had it maybe a year and then sold. I probably more seriously started getting into it after we were married. So I'd say maybe 28. We had to get through college. I had to get a full-time job.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of helped us is first of all, early on we had nothing, so that made it real easy, right? We lived pretty frugal. Mm-hmm. We had very good money discipline, mm-hmm. and both my wife and I share the same core values. Mm-hmm. We knew that, hey, got to plan for the future, and so we've always been pretty diligent about saving for the future.
Yeah. Did you have a certain percentage you strive to save?
Not necessarily percentage. I was the standard, going back to that pecking order. Mm-hmm. Whenever we were working, we always made sure we maxed out to the employee's contribution. Yeah. What they would match. So we always did that. Yeah. And at that point, it probably became of how much comfortable pad we could put in. Yeah. So I wouldn't say we definitely were not part of the FIRE crowd. Yeah. If I had to guess, I was probably saving less than 10% of my income in the early years. Yeah. Which was fun. What I really liked about, one of the things I liked about this conversation today is I had to go back and put all my notes together. Yeah. And I'm trying to think, so because I'm trying to figure out how did we get to where we are today? Mm-hmm. Because I didn't make really good money early on in my career.
Would you be able to speak to what your income looked like throughout your years?
And that's why I really enjoyed where we are today, because I did that just in preparation. I went through all my taxes. Yeah. Said, hey, let me pull out, what our household income. And then I laid that up against my resume just to figure out where I was in life. Mm-hmm. So let's walk through that. It's fun. All right. So as far as my, income over the years, first thing to say is I didn't normalize these. So they're all in the whatever year it was dollars. They're in those. Yeah.
If you would have, that would have been epic. It would have shown your financial finesse.
Yeah, no. Remember, I'm retired, so.
That's fair. I wouldn't have either.
So at the beginning, so I'm in the military. I had just gotten out of the military. My wife was working full time, so she has a Bachelor of Fine Arts. Mm-hmm. And we were making about 25K, call it. Mm-hmm. So we were at that level probably the first 5 or 6 years because I'm off getting my degree. Mm-hmm. The next jump in our salary was when I finally got out and started working as a double E, call it about 50K. And I was at that level, probably for the next, looks like 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. And that company treated me really well. And they were giving me pretty decent raises. But I remember being very frustrated because I'm looking at my peers and of course I'm behind them because I was off. I spent 4 years in the military, a year goofing off, and then 4 years, whatever, just. So I found that a little frustrating, which then said, you know what, I'm going to go to work for someone else. And again, really enjoyed my first company. They trained me extremely well. I'm so grateful for that. But the lesson I learned, and everyone, you hear this all the time, that, hey, if you really want to bump up your salary, you got to kind of typically need to go get a new job. Yeah. So that helped a lot. I went to work for another company, and I think at that point I started off at 90K with them. Wow. So yeah, that's back in 97.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good jump. I stayed at that level, moved around for a couple of different companies.
Mhm.
It's just, it's funny because I got out of the military for two reasons. I wanted to go back to college, and I didn't want to move my family around every 4 years.
Still moving.
I didn't succeed on that second part too well.
I'm hoping one day we can stop moving because my husband's Coast Guard, and
That's right. Yeah.
one day stop.
So that's who I did my active duty with, was Coast Guard,
Yeah.
and loved it. So good for him. And thanks, by the way.
Well, thank you.
So again, I'm at 90K in the late 90s. Then my next big jump was when I started doing consulting on the side.
Mhm.
That at that point, that brought me up to looks like around the 130s, 140s.
Mhm.
So I had my full-time job as an engineer, and I was doing a little bit of consulting. Probably, I was probably bringing in like an extra maybe 40, 50K a year.
Yeah.
Then my next big jump was when I went to work for my company full-time.
Mhm.
So I was working a Navy contract, and I had the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm not going to work for someone else. I'm just going to work for the Navy directly through my own company.
Mhm.
Yeah, that jumped me up to like 200K.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was, and again, I did a lot of work, but it really helped us prepare for the future.
Yeah.
Because that was the point where I was able to say, I'm going to take so much in income, but I'm going to do a SEP IRA through the company. And I think the company was, I was putting like 40 to 50K a year into that SEP IRA. So that helped a lot.
Yeah.
And I ended my career. So where am I here? I'm in the like 2012 timeframe or so when I did that.
Mhm.
And just over the years, when I left the workforce, I was right around 300K.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, it's been, the career has been very nice to me. So
Yeah.
it's helped us a lot.
I would say it was still a very gradual growth. I mean, you got to a very good income, but it was still very much done over the entire course of a career.
Yes. Yeah. And again, some really neat jumps in there
Yeah.
where, switching early on in my career really helped to boost up my salary. And as everyone knows, your salary tends to follow you.
Mhm.
Whenever you're negotiating for a new job, they just, you just start off with, hey, this is what I was making. I'm expecting a little bit more improvement. And that's been very successful for me. So
Yeah. Now, I have to ask about investing, because you said you like investing in stocks. Do you invest in funds at all?
I have. So yeah, I definitely do. The S&P 500 index, the QQQ.
Yep.
Are two funds that I've used a lot. Early in my career, that's all we did.
Okay.
That's not right. I was a big fan of American Century. I can't remember which funds we were in.
Okay.
But I really like those early on because they're kind of, they can be hands off.
Yeah.
And I was learning the ropes on stocks. So.
Mhm. And nowadays, what does your mix look like?
Yeah, I would say I had that somewhere. So right now, that 1.9 mil that we have with our brokerage house,
Mhm.
we do a combination of stocks and funds.
Mhm.
I think they tend to track about 15 stocks is what they like to manage.
Yeah.
And I would say the majority of our investment is in stocks. So call it like 70%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Individual stocks, not funds.
Yeah, individual stocks.
Okay.
And then sure enough, they have like 5 or 6 funds that they also invest into.
Now, what made you well, I guess who picks the stocks? Is it you or is it your fund manager?
The fund manager.
Okay.
So they, obviously we have ultimate say.
Yeah.
They sit down and they say, hey, here's where things are looking. And we give them the go ahead. There've been times we sat across the table from them and say, hey, this one is looking kind of interesting, but they do it all.
Okay. And what made you decide to work with an advisor?
Yeah, I want to answer this in two parts, I guess.
Okay.
because in different parts of my career, the justification was different. We go back probably, I don't know, 10 years ago when we started using them. It was strictly time. At that point in my where I was in life is I really liked the stock market. I was pretty good at it, but I wouldn't keep my eye on the ball.
Yeah,
So
you were
I'd be
busy
doing good.
working.
Yeah, and I was working a lot.
Yeah.
And again, I certainly could have gone back to funds, but what I learned was I could actually beat the indexes if I was doing my due diligence with stocks.
Okay.
So that's what made us go to a money manager at that point. Was I wanted someone that could really just keep their eye on the ball, and so that's why we did it in the early years. And again, this is another thing that frustrated me. If you go online and you start researching, everyone will say, hey, you need to do index stocks because a managed account will not outperform them. I've found that's not true. Now, certainly you need to do your homework.
I was like, you're speaking to an index here, and I think most people would just benefit from index funds, but most people aren't doing the work either. So,
right. And my son argues with me all the time, or not argues, says he has that philosophy. He says, Dad, why are you paying someone to manage your money? You just throw it into an index. And but I counter with it that we've tracked our money managers. They easily beat the S&P 500 index by several points. And they keep up with the NASDAQ. So that's my reason. And that's after all their fees are deducted. That's what I track. I say, tell me my return, subtract all your fees, and that's what I'm going to track you to. And we do. Now, certainly you have to be cautious. There's some money managers account out there that, they'll let it ride, and you won't, you're better off doing indexes. So anything, and just do your due diligence. So anyways, that's the first reason. If we would go back 15 years ago when I was trying to play the stock market and not doing it well. Where I think when we moved out to Tucson, again, we switched houses, money managing firms. And for that, it was more of I really needed someone that could help me on my journey into retirement. I love finance. I get very geeky about it. So I literally have written MATLAB scripts or a software programming language to look at, what are RMDs, what's Social Security, just so I have graphs everywhere. So I didn't move to them out of ignorance. I believe I have a good understanding of finances, but I'm a novice at it. So 3 years ago, I would say the justification for a managed account was I wanted that holistic advisor for going into retirement to look at Medicare, Social Security, all those things that I may not be aware of. And it's worked out excellent.
Awesome.
We were very, having gone through a couple money managers by this point, we did a really good job, I think, of interviewing like 5 different firms. We gave them a use case with 5 different things or 5 or 6 different things to look at, and almost like you're quizzing them, right? We looked at all the responses back from them and down selected to the company that we're using, and has been excellent.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad that you vetted them heavily, because I think that's just as important, because a lot of people, they might look at it as like them applying for a job, like they say, here, take me. Whereas you really want to make sure you mesh with that person. So you want to interview them.
Yeah, that was a big lesson learned for us. 58 or 59. So I've made a lot of mistakes, and you absolutely need to vet them. And again, the best way to vet someone, a money manager in my mind, is you go to them with that use case, present a situation to them, kind of have off in your hip pocket, like, hey, this is what I'm expecting to see from them. And just, because again, it's all about metrics, right? You have a measurable performance that they're all good at smoozing you.
Yes, they're salesmen. So you say you've made mistakes. What are some notable ones that you're willing to share?
Sure. Let me see. So certainly on the stock market, I've not tracking it diligently. was, I think I lost like 3 or 4K. I invested in Silicon Graphics and they went under. Certainly not knowing about RMDs was a problem. Hopefully we can dig our way out of that.
Yeah.
And not vetting would be another one. I think we were using one money manager that just did a not terrible, but subpar. We would have been better off in indexes.
Gotcha.
I don't know. So that's probably 3 of them. Many more, but I just have a bad
3 off the top of
memory.
Well, is there anything else you would like to share?
So probably the one thing, so big lesson learned, right, is a lot of your other viewers, and you've mentioned it before, is the value of time. So I kind of want to skip over that one, but certainly that is the number one. The other lesson, though, would probably be the need to look at things in opportunity cost. I think that's really important, that when you're trying to think about an investment, you really need, and you have 3 choices, just look at it from an opportunity cost and let the numbers help guide you. Having said that, and again, I think one of your other viewers said it really well too, was it's not always about the money. Part of your opportunity cost is, satisfaction or what does it do for your mental health or whatever. So that needs to get factored in. But so again, opportunity cost, I think is probably an important lesson.
All right. I always end on what's something you would like people to know about money, or what's the biggest lesson you would pass along. That might have answered it, unless there's anything else.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them, right? But certainly that's probably one of the biggest ones. The other thing for especially the folks that are early in their career is beyond just putting money away for retirement, you need to at some point come up to speed a little bit on it. And I'm really grateful that our kids are very receptive to listening to their old man, because again, I point to RMDs. I really wish I had known about that earlier in my career, because I could have structured things differently. So, the advice I would give for them is beyond just financially planning for it, speak to an advisor or someone about what are all the issues, healthcare, things to do after retirement, buckets of money. Look at that early, just so you're aware of it, so you can help reshape your path forward.
Yeah. I always think of like the beginning years, like your 20s and your 30s. That's just full steam ahead, invest it, build something. But then once you hit like your late 30s and 40s, now you've got to kind of implement a more structured plan. Yep.
Yeah, no, that's a great path.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, this has been a class, and I'm obviously very grateful for your channel. Yours was probably one of 5 channels that really helped guide my glide slope or my exit plan as I went into retirement. So thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, it's weird for me to think about. I don't know.
It's a good thing.
It is. But I mean, I'm just always like, I just make my videos and they're just me chatting about things that I love to chat about. That I don't know. It's cool to hear. It's just, it like hits a little different,
Yeah. It's great that first of all, just the topics you discuss are very insightful, but also, you'll throw up a chart and I'll look at it, and then all of a sudden I'm off at their website, and you have some awesome resources.
There are some cool places out there, and I like, if anyone wants to share any, I'm all for it. I try to cite where I get them, because I know there are people that are just as nerdy as me and want to dig into it and play with the numbers. So I'm getting better at trying to put the links in my description so people can go click on the calculators themselves and play with them.
Cool. Yeah. And again, that's appreciated, because I'm one of those geeks that love going back to your sources and saying, oh, what else do they have? So thanks.
Because there's only so many assumptions you can run when you're doing one example,
Yeah.
Clayton's absolutely right. Everything you do has an opportunity cost. A choice to do one thing with your money is a choice not to do something else with it. So it's very important to look at those opportunity costs when you're making decisions with your finances. And honestly, I loved this episode. There was so much great information in it. It's so fun to talk to people who've been there, done it. I feel like we can all learn a lot from these. If you guys are enjoying these Open Money series, if you want to participate great. I would love to have you on. All you have to do is send me an email at erintalksmoney@gmail.com and we will get it set up. I would love to feature you. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I hope you have a good one. Bye.